Hi, welcome to School of Literature. My name is Roshan. I'm a junior research fellow at Department of English Studies, Central University of Jharkhand. Today I'm going to discuss how you should study British literature for NTA-UGC NET in English. At the start, let me be very clear. You must have seen many videos here on YouTube about how to prepare British literature for NET in 10, 20 or 50 days. To be honest, don't ever think you can complete British literature in just 1 or 2 months. You just cannot prepare this topic in such a short time. I have been in this field since 2016 and even now I would not say I have covered everything. The more you read, the more you realize how much remains unexplored. But the good thing is that you do not need absolute mastery over British literature for UGC NET. What you need is a structured approach. If you have ever looked at the syllabus for NET in English, you will know how vague it is. You have drama, poetry, fiction, short stories and non-fictional prose. Essentially, it covers all literatures in English. Then there is literary criticism and literary theory, which also includes major British writers and texts. So what do you have to study? Well, everything. And how do you do that? By being smart about it. You cannot read every single text, but you can understand patterns, major themes, and the broader literary movements that tie everything together. More than anything else, understanding is the key. If you focus on rote memorization and try to stuff names, dates, and summaries into your mind without any context, it will not be there for a long time. What works instead is engagement. You need to read actively, make connections between texts, and think critically about themes. During my own preparation, I rarely memorize things deliberately. What I did instead is that I simply read and reread my history books, made notes, discussed them, and revised them at proper intervals. The more you engage with British literature or any other kind of literature for that matter, the less effort you will need to retain information. Now, you might wonder about why British literature is so important for UGC NET. A simple answer is that English literature as a discipline originated in Britain and expanded through its colonies. Because of this, British literature forms the backbone of literary studies worldwide. Whether it's Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, Shakespeare's plays, or the rise of the novel in the 18th century, British literature is not just a section in the syllabus. It is foundational to the way English literature's courses are structured. That is why it carries more weight, both in academics and in this exam. And it is not that I am saying this on my own. If you look at the previous year question papers, you will easily be able to verify this. If you start from the beginning, history will never feel like a burden. It will take some time, but you will be able to see that it is just a story which might not be as interesting in the beginning, but it will surely give you a lot of understanding of the world of English literature. You will find how one event leads to another, ideas keep evolving, and how literature somehow always reflects these changes. This approach allows you to visualize the shifts in thought, style, and expression. It makes it easier to remember and analyze different literary movements. You will notice how one period naturally flows into the next rather than seeing them as disconnected blocks of time. For the key periods in British literature, I will provide a timeline that I followed. You may find some variations in other sources, but you should not worry because none of them are wrong. These differences exist because the various ages of history are divided for the convenience of those who are reading or studying it. The people living in these periods were not consciously thinking that they were in the Renaissance, for example. These labels just help us track developments in literature and culture over time in a systematic manner. That being said, I also believe that a chronological approach works best when you are starting your preparation for the first time. If you already have a solid foundation in literary history, you can begin anywhere. When I started preparing for NET seriously, I focused on the Victorian and modern period simply because when I analyzed past year's question papers, I saw that very few questions were asked from the Anglo-Saxon period, while Romantic, Elizabethan, Victorian and modern periods carried a lot more weight. Since I already had a broad chronological understanding because of my undergrad, I chose to go backward. I started from where the most questions appeared and worked my way back. Of course, this is not a rule that you must also follow. It is just an example of what worked for me. I'm not trying to overwhelm you or pressurize you. I genuinely wish someone had guided me on how to prepare for NET. If you have not done it this way, that is completely fine. The most important thing is to start and to start now. So here is a structured timeline of British literature. As you can see, English literature begins with the Old English period, which is also known as the Anglo-Saxon period. Then comes Middle English period. Then comes the Renaissance, which was divided into 4 ages: Elizabethan, Jacobean, Caroline, and Commonwealth period. After that comes Neoclassical period. Then follows Restoration age, which was again divided into 2: Augustan age and Age of Sensibility. Thereafter comes the Romantic period, which is followed by Victorian period, which you can divide into 2: Pre-Raphaelites and Aestheticism and Decadence. After that comes Modern Age, which is again divided into Edwardian and Georgian period. Thereafter comes Postmodernism from 1945, which continues to the present day. If you wish, you can write this down or get a printout so that you can refer to it whenever needed. Having a timeline is just the first step. Your next challenge is to figure out what to focus on in each period. My suggestion is to always start with the socio-political history of any age. Literature has never existed in isolation. To understand a text, you must understand the time in which it was written. For example, if you study the modern age properly, T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land will make much more sense. You will still need to study its references and allusions, but you will understand the disillusionment and fragmentation that shaped the poem. Similarly, questions in UGC NET often test this knowledge. For instance, this was a question in the June 2024 exam. Which of the following are correct about the components of romantic poetry? The active projective view of human self or mind, mechanical, impersonal and artificial, distrust of reason, belief in reason, or collectivism? You could easily answer this question if you know romantic literary history, but this question becomes easier if you know the socio-political context. With respect to this question, some of the socio-political contexts are the period's reaction against industrialization, its emphasis on emotion over reason, and its belief in the power of individual imagination. Your next step would be to move on to literary history. Try to get a general understanding of the period's major themes, styles, and movements, and when selecting which authors and texts to study, look at multiple university syllabi for English literature. If an author or work appears in several syllabi, you will know for sure that it is important. The objective of any curriculum would be to include texts that are foundational to the period and are frequently analyzed. For example, certain texts are repeatedly listed across different syllabi, like Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, John Milton's Paradise Lost, T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land, and Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway and To the Lighthouse. You will also find George Orwell's Animal Farm and 1984. These are just some of the examples. I have already made a series of videos on novels you must read about for your NET preparation. I will add the link in the description if you want to watch them. You must make a list of all such authors and works. Read about the author, their literary contributions, and their important texts in depth. Always pay attention to chronology. Many NET questions test your ability to arrange events, works, or authors in chronological order. Keep a mental timeline of major works and their publication years. Whether you start from the beginning or somewhere in between, what matters is that you develop a structured approach. British literature is vast, but with smart planning, you can make it manageable. Instead of trying to memorize facts, if you try to understand the context and have a framework in mind during the exam, you will see that even if you fail to recall a particular answer, you can do smart guesswork because of your understanding of the context. Now that I have talked about how to get to know an age, its authors and texts, I should also talk about how to read and retain texts. You cannot just try to mug up facts and think of getting a good score in the exam. You will have to read certain texts. If you think it is not required, check out this question that was asked in the NET exam. Which of the following statements hold true with respect to Alexander Pope's essay on criticism? It is an inquiry into the nature and value of poetry. It presents a series of generalizations about good taste. It explores the challenges of impartial and just criticism. It underlines the traits of the good critic. It critically reflects on Plato's rejection of poetry. If you have only skimmed through summaries, you might be able to guess one or two correct options, but if you have actually read the essay, you can instantly recognize the right answers without having to memorize anything. Of course, it is not possible to read every text in its entirety. I know because I have tried. In the beginning, I was convinced that literature students should not rely on summaries. I tried to read voraciously and believed that I had to go through every book cover to cover. But when I started studying purely for NET, I realized how overwhelming and even meaningless this approach could be. You do not have to read everything, but you do need to read a lot. The key here is to be selective. Focus on important texts that you must read. Now the question is, how would you find a list of must-read texts? My answer would be to start with the books commonly included in university syllabi. If a text appears across multiple curricula, think of it as a must-read. You will have to read some of these texts, but even if you cannot read all these works entirely, read a detailed summary. Look for summaries which include analysis of themes, literary techniques, and context. Also remember to balance deep and surface reading. Close reading is crucial for academics, but for NET, summary-based reading is more practical. You need to be able to recall key themes, characters, and historical historical significance quickly and accurately. That is why I strongly believe that for NET, you need to be pragmatic and not idealistic. I initially hated summary-based reading, but in retrospect, I wish I had started earlier. This exam does not assess deep research skills. It mostly tests your ability to recognize patterns and broad literary developments. So you need to study accordingly. In order to read effectively, remember that reading is not just about recognizing words on a page, but about understanding how a text interacts with history, politics, and critical theories. While reading any text, see if there are any major themes. Check whether there is a colonial undertone in the text or a feminist critique. Try recognizing these patterns and it will help you connect ideas across different periods and authors. Always remember that English literature does not exist in isolation. In fact, no literature does. You will absorb most of this knowledge naturally if you are serious in your undergrad and postgrad. There are already 2 videos on this channel on how to study for your BA and MA. Check out those for more guidance. Links will be in the description. Another crucial aspect for your preparation will be effective note making. Note making is as important as studying. Your notes will be your final revision material, and that is why you need to structure them wisely. Organize your notes by period and author. Keep separate notebooks or divide a single notebook into sections. If an author belongs to the Victorian age, study them within that section. This way your notes stay structured and easily accessible. Maintaining chronology is the most important thing that you need to remember to make your notes. Always list an author's important works in order of publication. This is important for answering chronology-based questions in the exam. While making your notes, use keywords and bullet points. Avoid long paragraphs. Summarize key ideas in bullet points and highlight important facts for quick revision. I have written paragraphs initially, but I would never feel like revising those paragraphs repeatedly. That is why I am suggesting that you can try the same. Much more important than any of the tips that I am giving you is that before you even start solving past questions, analyze them. Look for patterns and see which topics are frequently asked and what kinds of questions are repeated. Understanding these patterns will help you in figuring out the kind of questions that come in the exam and also in prioritizing your study material. You need to be very selective as there is a lot to cover but not enough time to cover all of it. Focus on key texts, identify patterns and structure your notes efficiently. The more strategic your approach, the better your retention will be. So that brings us to the end of our discussion on how to master British literature for the NET exam. We started by understanding that rote memorization will not work on the longer run. You need to engage with the text meaningfully. While reading everything in detail is not feasible, having a structured list of must-read texts will ensure you cover essential works. And of course, before trying to solve previous year's questions, analyze them to get a clear idea of the exam pattern. But remember, this process is never truly finished. British literature is vast and no amount of preparation will ever feel completely exhaustive. Yet, if you follow this approach, your intellect will be deeply satisfied. You will not just be studying for an exam, you will be shaping your love and passion for literature in a way that will stay with you long after the test is over. I will see you super soon in the next one. Till then, keep reading and keep learning.